Hello everyone, my name is CHNMUN012. I'm a second year student in the Masters in Sports and Exercise Physiotherapy program. Today we're going to talk about the different statistical tests that can be used in a research study. So basically, research studies can be classified broadly into two categories, qualitative and quantitative, although sometimes there might be an overlap between the two categories. In general, qualitative refers to data-based studies that do not necessarily get quantified. For example, opinion of people on matters including politics, religion, or a product that might be in the market. So this actually involves themes of opinions and phrases and recommendations and things alike, as opposed to a quantitative research that actually tests theories, checks relationships between different variables, and maybe an effect of a variable on another variable or on a circumstance. This might include, for example, the effect that height might have on sporting performance, or weight, for example, on sporting performance. So that relationship between the variables is what we quantify in a quantitative study. So also in general, qualitative study form opinions that can actually be debated, or that can also be disputed in a sense, whereas quantitative research seeks to prove facts or to test the hypothesis. So in my case, I went for a qualitative study, but with a quantitative methodology in terms of the data analysis. What I mean is that my research is on the attitudes, knowledge and practices of footballers in terms of injury prevention, but I wanted to analyze this data in a much easier way to actually come up with solid recommendation. So in my data analysis, I was actually classifying my information into predetermined responses. For example, when I'm checking knowledge about injury prevention, I would have sections where I would make reference to if a player knows how to manage a hamstring strain in the acute stages, then I'd give on a Lineker scale about 5 responses for which they choose what they believe to be the best response. So that would also allow me to be able to sub-classify information, which gets me to my next phase of the type of data that actually comes out of research studies when they are quantitative. So the data can actually be numerical, which means data which can be quantified and can be scaled. For example, weight or height, or the information can be nominal or categorical, which is information that cannot be quantified as such in terms of the distinct categories that the information falls on, but can be classified. For example, gender, where it can either be male or female. So that said, there can also be then analysis done based on the type of information or the type of data that is being produced. For categorical information, there are tests that can be used that include the on-proportion test or the chi-square test. And for numerical data, there can be tests like the t-test or the ANOVA, the regression test. So these are all the tests that can be used to test data. But in the case of my study, I particularly went for the categorical information because of the classification of my responses. So the test that I will be going with is the chi-square test, because I want to compare the information and the level of knowledge that is scored and put in categories of maybe less knowledgeable footballers, averagely knowledgeable footballers, very knowledgeable footballers, and sort of try to come up with an impression of whether there's enough knowledge in the whole population. So this is going to be my test. And some of the questions that I'll be seeking to answer, which I hope my responses can give me an answer. Number one, is there enough knowledge about injury prevention amongst the players in Namibia? Number two, what is their attitude towards injury prevention? Do they believe it works? Do they think it doesn't work? What is their actual belief? And in terms of practices, what else do they do for it? So that's what I want to find out from my study. So just to check and make sure that there's enough understanding of my brief presentation, I'll just pose a few questions. Number one, I would like to ask if anyone can recall the difference between categorical and numerical data. Then number two, I would like to check if anyone can actually define data itself. What is data? And I want to give an example, number three, of variables that I want to be answered, whether they're categorical or they're numerical. So A would be weight. What is it? Then B would be gender. What is it? So to provide answers to my question, the difference between numerical and categorical data is that numerical can be quantified, can put in a scale, whereas categorical information can be subclassified. Then in terms of the definition of data, this is raw and processed information. Then weight is numerical data, and gender is categorical data. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening and taking time to listen to my presentation. Thank you very much.